Greetings. In today's video, we're going to start off with a little story about how this came to be and then discuss how it was resolved. About a week ago, a customer showed up with this chassis, which as you can see is a brown front concert amp chassis, and a very nice one with certain very unusual properties and a very low serial number, a 03 serial number from early 1961. And wanted me to help him with it. Okay, the amplifier worked, but he wanted things spruced up and improved. When we discussed the amp, he said it was in a cabinet with two 12-inch speakers. Now, if you do any research at all, you know that no Fender concert amp was ever produced in a 2x12 cabinet. So I was very interested to see it, and this is what showed up. Now, on the surface, it appears to be a legit cabinet with brown Tolex. It's got the ox blood grill cloth, which is really not appropriate, but I think it's been changed. There are certain things about it, though, that made me curious. This seemed too wide right here. When it came in, it had the chassis straps and handle. Those have been removed before this video. Let's take a look at the inside, and I think you'll start to see what's going on here. Okay, at first, and I've seen this done, sometimes there's water damage on the bottom part of a cabinet, so they just cut it off at the bottom and make a sort of just the second story cabinet out of it, but this is not the case. In this case, you can see from the construction of this, there are no box joints. There's writing like bottom and things like that here that make it very obvious that this is a homemade cabinet. Okay, they cut out the speaker baffle for two 12s. It's rather a kind of rough cut. It's not really well done. So then they put tinfoil in the roof instead of the the screening that we should see. But they built a back door. They really tried hard, but it is a completely homemade cabinet. When he brought it to me, it had two fairly new 12-inch Alnico Weber speakers in place, which were in real nice shape. So I told him, you know, we can fix this up and all, but we're sort of moving the deck chairs on the Titanic because this cabinet is never going to be right. And he said, well, what's the real cabinet supposed to look like? And I said, well, it's a lot taller. It's almost square. He said, oh, just a minute. And he leaves, drives off, and about 5 minutes later shows up with this cabinet, which is exactly the right cabinet for the chassis. Original Fender logo. It's got the early style grill cloth. Really not bad Tolex. I could take the chassis straps off the other cabinet to fix this up. Let's take a look inside. It also had all its corner protectors and one of those arms that swings back so you can tilt the amp back, clearly marked Fender. A little rusty, but it's there. Now inside, completely legit box joint. Over here is a tube chart for a 6G12, and then they hand wrote the A in, because it's a very early 6G12-A. On the tube chart, we've got the baffles for the 410s, and then we've got the wiring harness here for the speakers. They're all in parallel. This is going to come up and plug into the amp, of course, and then each of these will go to each of the four speakers. Well, I about fainted because what are the odds of anybody having exactly the part they need to put something together properly? So I was astounded. So within 5 minutes, the missing part showed up. I set about to make it right, to put the chassis into this cabinet where apparently it's never been, and to get four appropriate Jensen speakers and put this thing back into good working order. And that's what this video is going to be about. Okay, let's start out by taking a look at the chassis. We've got the 6 small tubes, the 12AX7s and 7025s are present. They're brand new. electro-harmonics tubes with brand new tube shields. We got a set of 4 seemingly matched electro-harmonic 6L6s. Now right off the bat you're saying, what do you mean 4? There's supposed to be 2. These are the original 2 6L6s. At some time, and as we'll see, the very distant past, somebody added 2 more tube sockets and 2 more 6L6s. Now this was not that uncommon. I've read about this on the internet. People wanted more power. This is like a 35 watt amp when it's in its original form. So they doubled it to 70 watts by doubling the number of 6L6s. Let's look at the rest of the amp while we're at it. All the original Astron capacitors. We'll have to test these and see. I don't see any bulges, leaks, or anything else. And apparently, I'm told this amp is very quiet, so there may not be an issue with the original filter capacitors. This, though, is something different. Look at the output transformer is actually as big or maybe larger than the power transformer. And that's a little unusual until you check, and it's hard to read, but the number on this is 022889, whereas it's supposed to be 022855. Now the 855, the original concert output transformer, was a 50 to 60 watt output transformer that wanted to see 2 ohms of speaker impedance. This is a 100 watt output transformer that wants to see 4 ohms of speaker impedance. So this has been changed 100 watts to compensate for the 4 6L6s. The filter choke is the common 125C1A that you see in so many different Fender amps. It's upside down, but the power transformer is a 67233, which is the original and correct power transformer for a Fender concert amp. So we've added 2 6L6s, we've doubled the output power from 35 to about 75 watts, 70 to 75, and we've installed an output transformer to handle that. So far, it's not a purist dream because it has been altered, but it sure is probably going to be a very, very powerful and nice sounding amp. That we'll have to find out for ourselves. So let's turn it over and take a look inside. Now, just before we flip it over, we might want to address one other issue, and that is, you got a 67233 power transformer that's used to powering 2 6L6s, now it's powering 4. Would there not be consequences? The output transformer was changed for these 4 tubes, but this was not. And I would say you would expect, yes, that this would be flowing more current than it was accustomed to, and there may be some consequences, but when I look at it, I see no evidence of heating, any overheating at all. It looks like it's in great shape, and I believe this is the original transformer that came on the amp. So all I can think of is there must be enough excess capacity built into this transformer that it can handle the additional draw for these 2 filaments and for the high voltage required for the plates for these 2 tubes. We'll see. I'm going to have to check the bias on this. We'll see what the plate current and plate voltages are. But I don't see any consequences. There are none that are visible. Okay, let's flip it over. Okay, we flipped it over. The control panel's nice. Some of the white lines are missing on the knobs, but what do you expect from 1961? Okay, the power supply seems to all be original. 3-wire cord's been installed. Has all of its Astron capacitors. Looks like the vibrato has been worked on. These are the replacement capacitors for the vibrato system. These are the cathode bypass capacitors for the 12AX7s and the 7025. I'm going to have to check this. This is an original, and it may need some to be replaced also if the others were. I'm going to check into that. But all in all, very clean interior. No sign of any heating problems. Looks really nice. Okay, and down here is where they added the two tubes. Now, here's what makes me think they were added at some time in the distant past. If you look here, now this is a new resistor. This resistor was changed. But here's an original resistor on an original 6L6, and it looks identical, both in age. Everything about it is the same to the two resistors on the new 6L6 sockets. The wiring's old, everything's old. I have a feeling that this tube addition was done long ago in the dim and distant past. Okay, we'll have to see how that works out. Okay, but the interior here looks really nice. Gonna have to check into this. Okay, here's the rear of the completed 1961 Fender concert amp. You see the chassis here is hung at the roof. I had to remove a little bit of this side brace piece here to allow the tubes to pass through. Other than that, everything looks exactly the way it should. And we've got our 4 C10Q speakers, all wired in parallel. Now these are 16 ohms each in parallel for a total of 4 ohms, which is exactly what this output transformer requires. So with that said, why don't we turn this around and hook it up and see what it sounds like. Okay, the volume's at about 3. Treble, bass, and presence are all straight up, neutral position, and the vibrato is off. Wow, extreme bass response, a good mid-range, crystal clear on top. Sounds just about perfect to me. Okay, let's try a little vibrato. So sweet. Well, that about does it for this video showing the resurrection of the 1961 Fender concert amp, languishing in a homemade cabinet, returned to the correct cabinet, and reunited with 4 10-inch speakers for some of the most ungodly sound you will ever hear from an amplifier. The bass response is beyond belief. These things are big and heavy, hard to lug around, but they're sure worth it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will stay tuned for future videos. And most of all, I hope to see you again in the near future. Thank you.